and welcome to the Bechdel Theatre podcast, the podcast where we talk about gender representation in the theatre. I'm Pippa.
And I'm Beth.
And we're your hosts. We have an amazing interview coming up in this episode.
I love these guests.
Yeah. You're going to love her. We've dedicated the entire episode to her, basically. She's got an upcoming show at VAULT. Her name is Giselle Gant. She is an American. I know, our first Yank.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Not only American, but she is from
New York City.
New York. Where we all wish we could be.
So good they named it twice.
So we've got her interview coming up.
That was recorded at Theatre Delhi Studios. We're currently introing from my Airbnb.
Yes. Beth, tell us why you're in an Airbnb.
I'm discovering London. I keep getting these emails from Airbnb saying, discover London. My flat got flooded, so I've been moving around on my landlord's insurance. And everything's been a bit of a chaotic February. But, you know, still got to see some stuff. We got put up in a Hilton for 2 nights right next to Waterloo, so I could go and see loads of stuff at VAULT, which was great.
So it's kind of like really, is serendipitous the word?
Serendipitous. Totally made up for wearing the same pants for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it felt like it was Edinburgh. It actually felt like Edinburgh Fringe because I was like leaving my hotel, my soulless
with everything on your back,
with like my backpack, and running between 3 shows, and then walking across the road and being home again, getting a dirty takeaway and drinking beer from cans. And
I mean, it is with VAULT as well because you're going,
because you're in a dingy underground watching fabulous, exciting experimental fringe theatre. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
Been good. What have you been doing?
Well, I'm in a show, funnily enough. But I don't know if this will come out in time, but I'll plug it anyway. I'm in a show with the Arcola Queer Collective at the Arcola, and it's called Cluedo Club Killings. It is a murder mystery farce. It's hilarious. Come watch. It's on from the Monday. 26th? Yeah, it's on from Monday the 26th till Friday the 2nd. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've done a show. It's funny being back in it.
I'm so excited to see it.
Oh yeah,
I'm coming on Tuesday. Yeah.
So, and it's an all queer cast. Like, how rare is that? It's so great. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. But anyway, we should stop our ramblings because we're not as interesting as our guest. Our guests, actually.
2 guests, Giselle Gant and Nathalie Adlam.
They have their upcoming show in March called The Year of the Rooster Monk.
Mm-hmm. Something to do with the Chinese calendar?
Yeah, it's kind of mysterious. It's also really to do with the movie Ghost and specifically Whoopi Goldberg's character, Oda Mae.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that in the interview.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we'll just hand over to them because it was an amazing interview and we were just blessed to have such great guests. So stick around for deets at the end of when the show is so you can book your ticks. Sorry, I will never say that again.
Ticks.
So you can book your ticket.
It works in a tweet because it saves letters.
Yeah, but in real
sounds
life,
weird when you say it.
You know what? In my head, it has been spelled as Ticks. It wasn't even like
Ticks.
Tix. Oh. It was wrong all round.
Like
I apologize.
the things that burrow under your skin. No.
Yeah, exactly. So stick around for the end so that you know when you can buy tickets. And also we'll be doing our normal roundup of
recommendations for March.
Yes. So enjoy the episode.
See ya.
Bye. Oh, I don't need to say bye.
Not bye.
Enjoy.
Hello everybody. We are here at Theatre Delicatessen in Broadgate. We're in a rehearsal room, which is why you may hear some little background noise. Somebody's having a singing practice in the next room, but it's quieter than the bar downstairs.
We have some accompaniment just for us. Ooh.
Yes.
She heard me.
Yeah, we love it. We have 2 wonderful guests. Would you like to introduce yourself, Giselle?
Hi, I'm Giselle Gant. I'm the actress and co-writer of The Year of the Rooster Monk that's going to be performed at the VAULT Festival
And I am Natalie Adlam, and I'm directing and co-writing with Giselle.
Bet.
Cool. Thank you so much for taking time out of your hassle to talk to us.
Of course, thank you.
So I thought what we could probably start with is actually a quick rundown of the show. I actually really love the copy you have on the website. It's really beautifully written. Did you want to kind of summarise it yourselves in what the show is for our listeners?
Ooh, that's tricky because we wrote that copy without having a show.
Ooh.
And so that's when it all unravels. So this beautifully written copy. Essentially, Giselle said to me, I want to make a show about Black Girl Magic originally. Yeah. And she was saying, I want to take that in its most literal form and think, well, if every woman has a piece of Black Girl Magic, what's my Black Girl Magic? It really then sort of spun off from there, and it's gone into all sorts of odd tangents. But in essence, if we were to boil it down to a basic concept, that's it. But there is a much more complex plot, which maybe you could elaborate on.
Okay, so the complex plot is I'm in Harlem. It takes place in New York, in Harlem, and my mother is selling our flat now. Or apartment, New Yorkers. So she's selling our apartment, and this is sort of the only home that I've ever known, and just sort of the loss and sort of like the sudden eviction of being in this apartment is a little bit traumatic, and the only way I can save it is by getting a part in the musical Ghost that's coming to Broadway, because I will have the money to give to my mother so she won't sell it. And in preparing for the role, I go to the extreme to sort of inhabit Oda Mae Brown, like literally inhabit her, like she is going to come in, her spirit is going to come into me, and I'm going to nail that audition so that I can get this role, so that I can keep my apartment. And that's just the most ridiculous plot ever, but it's interesting and funny.
Well, we should add that Oda Mae Brown is a psychic in the original, and she's kind of a medium. So So we saw this parallel in a psychic who allows characters into her body, with that of being an actor, having to allow characters into your system, if you like.
I really like that. And Oda Mae is Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes.
Okay.
So have you been studying Whoopi?
Yeah, I've always been studying Whoopi. She is a constant in my life. Yes, so I love Whoopi. So yeah, you will see a little bit of impersonations as best I can.
Oh my gosh, amazing! I can't wait.
So you say that it's set in Harlem. For our UK listeners who might not be aware of the makeup or the different, is Harlem a borough?
No, it's an area, sort of like Tribeca or Lower East Side, Battery Park. It's an area on the island of Manhattan, so it's in Manhattan.
Okay.
Right. So painting the picture of New York, there's the island of Manhattan, and then there are other boroughs like the Bronx, which is sort of up top. There's Queens, which is sort of, if you're looking at the map, it's off to the right of Manhattan. And then there's Brooklyn, which is sort of at the bottom right, and then Staten Island, which no one talks about. So, and there's that. So those are the boroughs. And Harlem sits right above. So Central Park is, funny enough, right smack dab in the middle of Manhattan. And it goes down as far as 69th Street and goes as far up as 110th Street. 110th Street is where Harlem begins. And it goes all the way up to, let's say, 150th. Up there, so it's that big, and from river to river.
I've just remembered that I think I actually went to the end or the beginning of Harlem. I was in New York last year, and we did a bike ride around Central Park. Yeah, I think we actually went up there. But
probably.
I've never been to Harlem other than just like touching the surface of it there.
That has to change. That has to change the next time you go.
I think I stayed in Harlem when she went to New York.
Really? Yeah. I was told to go to church there, actually. I think there's supposed to be really nice congregations there.
Do you live by? You told me about how you live by a church.
Yeah, there's a church on every corner.
So you
sort of in Harlem. So
are you from Harlem and live there now, or?
So I am born and raised in
Oh,
Harlem,
lovely.
but literally this story is about selling of the flat. We literally sold the flat. So
it's based on truth.
It's based on truth, and I now live in Brooklyn, which I usually used to talk bad about. So now I have to sort of eat my words because I live in Brooklyn now. So very interesting.
I wonder if there are these areas that we could compare to bits of London. Probably not. It'd probably be a false comparison.
I think Brooklyn is, it's like the bougie area, isn't it? Brooklyn?
Yeah, so it once was, let's say, I don't know really. I can say that Harlem was like Peckham, and now is like, what is it? No, it's like...
Peckham's been really gentrified recently,
Oh, well then.
So,
but it's been gentrified, so it's more like Brixton. It's like Brixton.
Right.
That's a great way of...
So you're bringing this show that's set really specifically in Harlem to London. Is it something that you think is going to resonate with Londoners, or do you think it's going to be a new neighbourhood, something that we'll never have experienced or seen before? How much is the show kind of essentially New Yorkian, and how much is it?
Well, I think it's New Yorkie because I'm a New Yorker. So I mean, there's that, and I give flavor of Harlem, but it's. Would you say like Harlem is like almost another character in this place?
Yeah,
or is it the apartment?
It's like a love letter, like that classic. It's a bit of a love letter to your home, to your home city, and to that area within your home city. I think. And to perhaps one sense of loss because there's a sort of shuffling transient population, millennial population.
Right.
Actually, this is an apartment that she was born and raised in, and well, to a certain extent, within the context of the story.
Right.
And so it's just also the reason why it might resonate is because the same kind of gentrification process is going on in Manhattan and in Harlem, in New York and in Harlem and as it is here. So
a bit of both. We get to see something that might be familiar, but also a taste of somewhere completely different.
Right.
That's really cool. Yeah.
I really like the idea of Harlem being a character as well, because I think there's such a specific way that people talk about New York that is like that, and very different. But in Broad City, the girls, the woman who made that, they often say that New York is like the third character in their show because it has such an identity and plays such a big part in it, and it couldn't really take place anywhere else.
Exactly.
So I think that is something quite special about New York.
Yeah. And you'll get a really good flavor of Harlem because what I love about Harlem is its flavor. So I will definitely be talking about certain things that are very unique to Harlem. And, you guys will...
You're inviting us in.
Yes, inviting you in.
Who needs to pay for a flight? We can go to VAULT.
Let's go to the VAULT Festival. So, which brings us round to why the VAULT Festival? What drew you there?
Yeah, a number of reasons. We did a show there, 2014. As in Le Fool. So actually, I had just come back from Uganda, and Giselle and I had been in Uganda together working on Much Ado About Nothing. And then I flew back, and somebody said, "Hey, do you want to direct this show that we're doing at the Vaults?" And I was like, "Okay, I've never heard of the Vaults, to my shame." And then actually, so we did a show there, and we did a show there the year after, and it's an amazing festival.
And is that where Les Fools became a thing? A theatre company?
No, it was prior to that, but it was through a variety of... we both are we're both connected to Central School of Speech and Drama.
So is that... is the two of you the theatre company? Are there more of you?
There's 1,000 people.
So there's an essential trio that lives in the UK, but one of them is American, and then two of us are half English, half French. And Giselle has probably been our most frequent collaborator, I think.
Shut up, really?
Yeah, so she's kind of like almost an honorary member, but she lives in New York. So
an honorary member. I'm not even a member yet. That's hurtful. I've been the most collaborative. Like, what?
Well, you haven't so quite as collaborative as the original three, but you're almost there. If you moved to London...
But it's like cool having a theatre company that crosses transatlantic.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't need to move to London.
We're an international theatre company.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, we try to be, but that's financially quite tricky.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. But nice to work in between two different places.
Well, this was actually something that I was really intrigued by. I was like, is it possible to make a show kind of through the digital? In the digital system, because we were like, we were talking about Ghost, it was an analog world, can we kind of use technology to make a show? in a sort of just practical way, and we discovered, well, we've tried this before, but can you do?
It's just really hard.
Can you rehearse through WhatsApp? Can you create scripts, on Google Docs? And it's actually, for some reason, really difficult.
It's really difficult, but I think also because we have other things to do with our lives, and also time difference, and things that we sort of can't control. Like we need money to pay for our data that we're going to use to talk to each other about, You do see what I mean? So it's very difficult.
I think there is something special about being in the same room at the same time as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
In a collaboration.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons I do theatre, is because
Absolutely.
you get to be in the room.
Absolutely.
When you're performing and also rehearsing and also finding people to work with as well.
Yeah. And do you have any plans to, or have you ever thought about taking it back to New York to see what it would be like, or are you very much set on it being here? Ooh, I see nodding heads.
Definitely, but we're having we're thinking that, well, you're thinking what if this almost gets, is it, we're translating, are we translating something about Harlem for a UK audience, and that's how we're making the show?
Yes.
And Giselle's like, if I went back, right,
I
would kind of refocus this,
just refocus, or just sort of like get rid of explanations about
like certain expositional features,
right? Like what a chopped cheese is, right?
What is a chopped cheese?
A chopped cheese. Yeah. Okay, so it's a sandwich that you get in Harlem at the Bodega, which is a corner. Bodega's a corner store.
Yeah,
are they London run? Is that why is that Bodega?
They once were run by Dominicans, but now they're run from people from Yemen, which is very interesting.
Wow.
So now there's like I think that sort of happened like in the early 90s, late 90s, the 90s, 2000s, the Yemenis started taking over the bodegas, but the name still stuck. Mm-hmm. And because they don't eat pork, none of the sandwiches or any of the food that you buy there has pork. So Harlem is largely pork free, which is very weird and interesting. Also, there are mosques on every corner as well as churches. So it makes it even more pork free. Which is random. So a chopped cheese is literally some like random beef that they put on the grill, and they put some like sazon Goya on it, and they like sort of like toss it and cook it, and you put it on a hero with some lettuce, tomato, like.
What's a hero?
Oh, okay. It's a type of. It's like a roll.
Like a butty.
It's.
Like a roll?
It's like a long roll.
Like a hot dog bun?
Hot dog bun.
No.
Oh.
It's not like that. It's just like a different. It's like a baguette, but less nice.
Like a sub?
Like a
sub. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you put it on there with like onion and everything, and it's great, like late night food. It's a Harlem staple. So when you go there and just order a chopped cheese, it's really delicious.
You can't have it. You're vegan.
I am vegan too. I just remember how delicious it is.
The memory. Sometimes that's good enough.
A vegan version? In Brooklyn, maybe.
No, actually, right across the street from where I used to live is a soul food vegan spot in Harlem that is delicious. Shout out to Seasoned Vegan. If someone is listening to it, it's so delicious. Soul food, vegan, gorgeous.
Oh my god, I'm definitely going there next time.
All the times I go to New York. Yeah.
I have family there though. So
okay.
There you go.
You've got a good excuse. So the show, back to the show. You have a couple of, are they other characters in it? There's somebody called Molly, and there's Oda Mae Brown, and then the mysterious Molly. How does that work?
I'm going to talk about Molly.
Are you going to spoil it, or is it like a secret?
Well, I mean, Molly, from like the basic sense, is from the movie Ghost. She was played by Demi Moore. Yeah. Right? So that's Molly in the movie in terms of the ghost setting, but
yeah, Molly's just I suppose, well, she's our musician. Is she our musician? We've had the idea of an army of Mollys. We've had the idea of we've been equivocating over whether Molly should or shouldn't be in this text, and it's quite tricky because that the core of the movie Ghost is this almost
trio.
This trio. Yeah, it's Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore, and Whoopi Goldberg playing these three characters, but Giselle is just one. And so we were like, how much of a one-woman show is this? How much of it is it not? So It's very confusing.
We've actually seen quite a few one-woman shows, or what we thought were one-woman shows, but actually they'll end up being like a musician or some other figure who like plays a part in it.
Yeah.
Quite a few of them in Edinburgh. Something, this is quite random actually, but is there like a VAULT's equivalent in New York? But like a really big kind of theatre festival?
Yeah, we just have the Fringe Festival.
Fringe Festival.
Yeah, that's our thing.
When does that happen?
I don't know.
I want to
I don't know, but I guess we'll be taking this to the Fringe, isn't it? Yeah, so
the funding works completely differently in the States, doesn't it?
Yes.
Or there isn't any, or
there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no funding. So
I really like the idea of a séance come theatre show, which is how it's part of its tagline, I think. What does that mean? That is the audience involved in the séance? Do we all hold hands and call together
in the candlelight around
like
the table?
ghosts?
Yeah, well, kind of. So the provenance of the word séance is that it comes from the idea of a sitting, and I think again there's an obvious parallel between a séance and its potential theatricality and then the theatre experience itself. But also, Giselle particularly has loved the idea of the audience being her ghosts, and Giselle has already has talked of a connection to the ghosts of places and spaces that are important to her. So, in some ways, I think we were just drawing on that idea. It's not a séance as such, but neither is it not.
So, like the moving out of the flat is kind of like somewhat a grief, a death.
Right. And also sort of like if we take the seance idea out of sort of Western ideas, and we have sort of like there are other types of seances, but they don't sort of, have the holding hands at the table. You have more of a drum beat. You have more of a dancing and singing and calling of spirits, because the seance is calling of spirits. So what that means with other traditions as well, not sort of,
And the idea of like channeling something.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
Summoning.
Being possessed by something or having something, some other presence there with you. So.
Magic. Exactly.
Black girl magic.
Yes. There it is.
The hashtag.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could kind
that's
of
the thing.
Talk about how you made this show and how hashtag Black Girl Magic fits into that, because for you it was very much the starting point of how you created it. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Yeah,
so a woman named Kashawn Thompson started the idea, the hashtag, the idea of Black Girls Are Magic. And she lives in DC, and she started that. And I knew her and, bought a t-shirt and everything. And it was very, yes. So it's really cool. And just the idea, it comes from the idea that Black women are sort of underseen, like misunderstood, not really celebrated. And we don't celebrate ourselves a lot. So this was just sort of like a movement to make sure that we celebrate each other before we can have other people celebrate us, right? So I would rather say, girl, your hair looks fly. That's Black Girl Magic. That's a camaraderie and like sort of like a sisterhood that we're building with that idea. And so I think that's such a beautiful thing to have. And it started sort of to take on a life of its own. Like whenever a Black woman would do something amazing, that's Black Girl Magic. Like Michelle Obama, my goodness, Black Girl Magic, right?
Yeah.
First Black astronaut, Black Girl Magic. Like, things like that. But then for the everyday person, I was always struck with the idea of the everyday person, okay, if all Black girls have magic, what is our magic? What is my magic particularly? And because I'm sort of weird, I want to find the literal sense of it. And so I always found that that's like an interesting starting point for anything, any work of art, finding your literal magic. What does that mean? And so, finding magic through this is literally she's going to call on spirits that somehow she had in her already, but it's her magic or,
Cool.
Right.
Hence the seance. That makes so much sense.
Seance.
I love it.
The
So
city.
much seance.
So much seance.
Yep.
That was a very Cher type of
Seance.
Seance.
So when did the Black Girl Magic, when did that take off? When was that invented? Kashawn?
I think 2015.
2013. What we had?
Was it 13?
So it's very recent.
No,
it's a
like
recent
24
thing.
It's recent, but also
A couple of years.
No, it had to be like 20. Oh
Google time.
goodness!
Let's check
we
our
had
history.
those.
It might be
we had
2013
had.
to be honest. 2013, 2014. Be what it was.
So it's something that has spread through social media.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Even Black Panther, they're hashtagging Black Girl Magic because all the women in there are just fierce and have agency over themselves.
And it passes the Bechdel test.
Yes, and it passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah, 2013.
2013.
We got it.
Yeah, 2013. Black Girl Magic since 2013.
Yes.
And before that, it just was there. It just maybe wasn't named out loud. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
I really like this idea of, you talk about ghosts being analog and being and the idea of ghosts influencing the story, but also what is this kind of digital world and what is the world of millennials.
There's mention of a VCR in
Yes.
the description.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
Is
Well-
it set now? Sorry, it is set today.
it is.
Yeah.
But you see, I think a xennial. I'm unfortunately, I don't think I even fit the millennial bill. So I'm only at best born in 1980, just sort of
I think
squeeze
1980
in.
is a millennial.
Well, apparently it's like 1980 to 82.
There's
I
like
think is
old
xennial.
millennials
It's
and
like-
young millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an old millennial.
I'm an old millennial.
I still remember VCR. So
Yeah.
like, right.
Exactly. So I'm bloody geriatric. And
No.
In millennial years.
Yeah, exactly. In a way, also, I'm terrified of social media. So this is sort of, in some ways, in terms of how I guess I relate to this show. I'm like, well, you know, I am oddly and horribly nostalgic about tapes and anything that had a sort of magnetic reel. And I was like, and I don't really get the digital world, but I use it, but I don't get it. And so that awkwardness, that sort of sense of being at home and not being quite at home, is something that I think is really interesting about being on this sort of cusp generation. And I think that those ideas, I think we both share some of those, although you're much more digitally inclined than I am, or socially medially inclined. So I was like, okay, yeah, like I think that's something that just crops up inevitably.
I feel like there's something about being the last generation to remember not having the internet,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is definitely where I feel like I remember the internet coming in my life in the same
Yes.
way that my parents, who are baby boomers, talk about getting their first TV. And about how in my
Yes,
day we didn't
yes,
have
yes,
a TV, and I feel like I'll be saying to the next generations, in my day we didn't have the internet.
Yes. Yes.
Like logging on for the first time and being like, I'm literally talking to someone on the other side of the world. This is insane.
Yeah, and AIM was a thing. Like,
Yeah.
MSN.
Yeah.
No, we didn't use that
A
in
bit
America.
later.
No, we
is
didn't.
it- I think
we
it's
And like
the-
Yeah.
BlackBerry, we didn't use BlackBerry Messenger, BBM. We never used.
I've never used that.
Oh, okay.
It was
Well,
a thing. But
I
it was a thing.
Yeah.
We just didn't. It wasn't
No.
for us.
But definitely the thing of like, whoa, this is surprising. And then
Yes.
I think a lot of people younger, it's just not surprising that you can instantly connect with someone on the other side of the world.
They'll have something. It'll
It's
come.
scary.
Something
I
will
was
shock
just
them.
thinking, what's going to be the next thing? Like, obviously,
I know.
we can't ever
AI.
conceive of it. But
The next thing's going to be AI. It
Yeah.
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
marrying,
it really is.
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, marrying robots.
But
Yeah,
that's,
exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
yeah.
So I really like this idea of like building spaces having a memory. It's making me think about like how it feels. Actually, it reminded me of my dad visiting London and places that he used to live when he was like my age, and walking around a corner and suddenly feeling a bit like maybe you're a ghost. And like when my parents sold the house that I grew up in, I definitely, the last few times I walked around it, had this feeling that like almost the space is still going to be there when,
But not yours.
but you not, but not me. Like when you walk, when you come out of a doorway that you've always been through,
Yeah.
but you're a different person,
Yeah,
and you can almost see the ghost of like maybe your younger self
absolutely.
running
Yeah.
about. Is there a sense of that in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
show of
Definitely.
Absolutely.
generations and aging and
yeah, absolutely. And being nostalgic about that and sort of not knowing what your next move is, you know, because you've known this. This is a part, it's become like a family member. And I guess it's sort of like losing a family member almost. And
And also you've got, I mean, in this story, it features ghosts in the walls, and traces of this of a history of this apartment. Yeah. That Giselle, your character taps into because you're really trying to connect with your environment in the sort of last and most meaningful way possible. And so I think, the traces of Harlem's history and your, whatever, our collective consciousness pouring into this space, and the traces of you in the past, and all of that kind of big melee. And that's definitely a massive feature of it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, you said it all.
I feel like there's that juxtaposition or a contradiction of physicality and being physically sharing a space, and also the kind of digital age and connecting online but actually feeling much more separate. And although you can connect and interact more with people, the idea of kind of actually it having more of a detrimental effect in this kind of isolation that you feel with the internet and with our devices.
One of the things that is also in the show, but it's actually a truth moment, when I get severely depressed, that is the only time I tweet, which is weird, right? That's the time I'm holding on to, the outside world via social media. I won't step outside my door, but I will be on social media to have some sort of contact with people. And that's sort of that millennial isolation. I would rather isolate myself physically, but through the ether, I can...
And do you think social media helps in those situations?
Absolutely.
So, even though you can't leave your house, you've still got a sense that there is a connection.
Yeah.
So it's kind of... Because I always think about, I think we talked about this in the last podcast episode actually, about how sometimes social media can have the effect of isolating you if you're feeling quite lonely or quite, sad or whatever, and you look on social media and you see everyone living their best life and doing great things, and you kind of go, oh no, everyone's making all these achievements and everyone's having such a wonderful time and I'm just in my flat in my pajamas and oh, my life sucks. But then actually, the situation can be that you can reach out to somebody else and say, I'm having a terrible day, and they can say, me too, and you kind of bond.
But I never do that. No. I'm always hey, yes,
I'm
it's all amazing. Such a great time, and I'm crying. You know what I mean? So it's one of those.
Having me time.
Right, exactly.
In my pajamas.
Like a glass of wine. It's having a girl's night in. It's
treating
I'm
myself. I'm drinking alone. Cool. Well,
we've digressed.
We have massively digressed. So we should probably get back on track. Is there anything else you wanted to tell the listeners about the show before we get onto the feminist faves?
Well, okay, quite simply,
yes.
Really, this also includes this is about a mother-daughter relationship.
Oh yes, also,
and
I am sure this passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
In terms of men, they are largely absent, not through any cruelty, but they just
boring. Exactly.
They just don't really
this is the
appear.
point. When women get together, we talk about so many things.
Bubble
but when
baths.
men write women, they write them as if they talk about men the whole time.
Yeah,
often.
So it's awkward.
No, there's not so many dudes in this show.
I mean, I actually was I think I might have too many dudes, and there's only two. There's only two, and I'm there might be two. Oh, there's three. Oh, yeah. I gotta cut one.
They're creeping in.
Right, I gotta cut one, dude.
Don't feel like you have to.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
I mean, we did. Also, the other thing about the show is we are sort of wondering whether you can channel Patrick Swayze as and play the white male to your black female.
Giselle doesn't look really enthused.
You know
by
what?
That idea.
Who knows what will happen opening night?
I mean, it's partly because we did go. This is my little intrigue in terms of ghosts. I don't know if you've picked it up, but it was it's this weird heterosexual tale where Whoopi Goldberg's character Oda Mae Brown becomes this vessel for a moment in which Sam, the white guy, enters her body so that he can access Molly in kind of physical terms.
In a physical and sexual way, which is sort of did anyone ask Oda Mae Brown if she wanted this? Did anyone?
Well, she kind of sort of gently gives in, but it's just...
she's been beat down this whole movie. She's tired.
Yeah, I mean, she's given in on all sorts of levels. But this is a really interesting and odd, if you think about it, you think about it really
It's
carefully.
a weird thing.
It's a really messed up concept.
It's actually, the whole concept of Oda Mae Brown in this movie is like an unwilling sidekick.
Wow.
Sort of, people call magical Negro, who is just there to further the story for this white man to go and literally go on to the next plane while leaving her in the same state that she was.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a trope that we discuss also, I learned a bit more about, but just the trope of the problematic trope that used to be involved in, in these kind of Hollywood narratives.
Still definitely is in Hollywood.
Do you know how many black therapists I've seen in TV shows recently?
Yeah.
So many?
And they're helping sort of...
No, as in like characters. Like whenever there's a therapist character for a white character, I've seen a lot recently. They're always black recently. They're like this mystic.
Didn't even.
I've noticed it a lot recently. It's starting to feel like a trope to me.
I noticed it recently in that film 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah.
They're obviously Frances McDormand, great actress in the lead role, but there was like 3 black characters in it. One was her best friend who said like 2 lines that passed the Bechdel test, and it was like kind of sassy stereotype. Then there was
Wasn't she out of prison?
Yeah, and then she went to prison. And then there was the cop, the badass cop stereotype who came in and was like, I'm gonna sort this fucking place out. And then there was this guy who was like who was helping to put up the billboards and offering these little kind of pearls of wisdom that I thought, he's a bit of a magical Negro character. And the 3 characters in that, considering like how much it sort of deals with race and like has this white character who is like outwardly racist, and then he sort of goes on a journey that I think is disputed but was a bit of a redemption. And I just thought, how can you be like flagging up this thing about police racism but then having 3 black characters that are completely sidelined in the whole thing? It's definitely still a trope.
But that,
definitely.
That film's odd though, because Frances McDormand's character somehow also manages to kind of also allow the fact that all of the other women in that text are, that narrative text are basically sidelined. Like the whole, I don't know. Like, there's a terrible girl.
The girl. She was an amazing actress, though. I thought her timing was hilarious. I was like, I feel so sorry for you, but your timing was brilliant.
But then also,
they're a bunch of terrible parts. They all have terrible female parts.
Like with like black women's portrayal, largely they're usually alone, sassy, and or they have one. They're always struggling in some sense. They're a single parent, or do you know what I mean? They're alone or just coming out of jail, or do you know what I mean? They're not really shown as a complete character, whatever that is. I mean, no one has to be like with in a heteronormative relationship to be a complete character, but they're never really complete.
Yeah. Maybe we should do some feminist faves.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Speaking of awesome women.
Speaking of Black Girl Magic as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Black Girl Magic. Giselle, who's your feminist fave?
Okay,
for this
thanks
podcast?
to Nat, she reminded me. Shirley Chisholm. So Shirley Chisholm was a woman who was the first woman ever to run for president of the United States in 1972. She was also a black woman and also a lesbian, which was already like smashing stereotypes left and right, killing the game.
That's like that poem. That I Want a Dyke for President poem.
Yeah.
Do you know that
No.
one? It's really good. It's written in the 90s, I think. So I'll show you.
Okay,
It's
great.
a really amazing poem, but it's like, I want a dyke for president.
I'm going to Google that.
Yeah.
Please,
Sorry, carry
talk about Shirley.
No, Shirley was just badass, and she was part of all these like feminist groups. Largely, the black community was like, why are you with these feminist groups? Because feminism is for white women. You have a feminist, like, we have some other stuff going on. But Shirley was like, no, let's be inclusive. So she was with all these, feminist groups, and she asked them to help her with the campaign, to run everything, and they would not help her because they didn't think that she was going to win. So they weren't even going to even try. So, but Shirley Chisholm is still like, I have a shirt that says Shirley Chisholm for president. And I just didn't remember the year. But I'll bring that in. I was supposed to bring it in today. I'm sorry. I do. I'll bring it tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, you have it with you?
Yes, I brought it just for,
That's That's
Black women solidarity.
Feminist faves anymore?
Well, mine, just because it's so fresh on my mind, it's probably Black Panther, because I saw it last night, and it did just feel like something that has never quite happened before, and was an amazing film, and celebrated women. But I'm kind of torn with it, because I recently read that in the original comics, which was co-written by Roxane Gay, there was a lesbian storyline, and it got straight-washed. I can't remember the term, but it was taken out of the films, and the screenwriter was like, "Oh, I don't know what people like," just denying that it should have ever have been a thing. Yeah. So it's kind of unforgivable, really.
I'm still gonna go and see it.
So. Yeah, I mean, it's still good to support the film. But yeah, Black Panther was incredible.
I think this is tricky for me. I suddenly realised I was talking to my friend who teaches politics and philosophy at a sixth form, and he was talking about the feminist course that they will do as 18-year-olds. And I'm my feminist. What? Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, wait, hang on. I'm suddenly like, I think feminism's odd because it's not odd. My feminist faves would all come from literary feminists, because that's what I learnt at when I was when I was at uni. And I suddenly realised like my perspective on feminism is like it's like a tiny little fraction of it, and I don't know half enough about I guess political activist feminism. So my feminist fave would be to reacquaint myself with the second wave radical activist feminists, and to figure out who they are and what they were really doing, and then see how that shuffled into third wave feminism and so on and so forth. Reacquaint myself with it, because maybe that's part of. We were like, the other day we were like, do we both need to go back to the drawing board of what feminism is? Yeah. Because maybe we've only got our own little fragmentary version of it.
And also we're coming from two different perspectives of, what feminism is. So
yeah, definitely. So
I'm going to say a show that I saw at VAULT, but then also before that, I wanted to say that I was doing a talk at university today, and they asked me to do a presentation about Bechdel Theatre, and also talk about like how Bechdel Theatre works in feminist theory. And I was like, what kind of feminism do you do? And I was like, well, obviously intersectional feminism. And so I had to go and watch all of the videos that I watched a while ago of Kimberly Crenshaw talking about intersectional feminism, and remembering the story that she tells about a woman who is a black woman and being discriminated against, but the company that's discriminating against her says, but we hire loads of women, and they hire white women, and then says, but we hire loads of black people and they hire black men. And so her experience being that at this crossroads of uniqueness, because there is when the two things are layered on top of each other, they affect her in a completely different way. And I was like, it's so good to go back, because I kind of thought, oh yeah, I know what this is, I'll just type it out. And then I thought, no, I'm going to go back and quote Kimberly Crenshaw, because I'm not going to just give these university students Beth's interpretation of what this is. Yes. So I went back and watched all the videos again, and it's really awesome to sit and absorb it all, and when it's no longer kind of brand new to me, to refresh it and to get back to where this concept originally came from. And was really awesome.
I think there has been a kind of danger of the term intersectional kind of being misused, or kind of the original meaning kind of is a bit lost, and it's kind of just like a buzzword that people are like, oh, I'm intersectional feminist. Do you really know what that means? It's not counting off your oppressions or your privileges in the way that it was
how
coined.
Are people using it in your mind when they're using it in a sort of bankrupt way?
I think people
they use it as a buzzword without having listened to and read about it in detail.
And how it's structural more so than I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this, and it's how much you interact with governance and structure and the police and all of that kind of stuff, and it's kind of very much lost. I guess the politics of it.
Yeah.
And it's now just like, I'm an intersectional feminist.
Yeah, but it's not ticking boxes.
Yeah.
And then the show that I was going to mention was a comedy show that I saw at VAULT the other day. It's a comedy duo called Egg. And they were so funny and so feminist.
Yes.
They were awesome. And their show was only on for one night, but they're bringing a new show to Edinburgh Fringe in the summer. So it's going to be like my number one show to watch at Fringe.
Yes.
They were like just so spot on. Everything, not every single sketch had a feminist twist, but everything you could see they were doing was from a feminist perspective. And they were both women of colour, South Asian, East Asian women working together. I thought, cool.
Nice.
I want to be like inspired by everything you do. And I just laughed my ass off.
What was the thing? They just
It was called Egg. Their duo was called Egg, and their show was called Egg Static.
Oh yes, I saw the poster in the blue, actually.
Funny.
Yeah,
It's really great.
It was just a sketch show. It was really good, solid, bang on sketch comedy with them playing loads of different characters, playing men, playing women, playing animals, playing like there was a sketch with a toilet roll that was just.
I love female sketch comedy.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
So
Also, can I do an honorable mention?
oh please.
The sorority Delta Sigma Theta. So why I am shouting them out is because they broke off from the original sorority, aka this is a black sorority in America, and they broke off from the sorority, aka Alpha Kappa Alpha, to help in the women's suffrage movement back when we were like fighting for women to have the right to vote, even though they weren't going to have the right to vote with the women.
Fucking hell.
Right.
Wow.
There's some serious ass women.
Oh
So,
wow. When
yeah.
was that? Like 100 years ago.
Oh, I was about to laugh, but
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Not that long ago.
Right.
Shit.
But American suffrage is different to... It's a different
It was-
time. I mean, it wasn't far
Different
apart.
laws at different times, but
Yeah.
round about 100
Yeah.
years
Was
ago.
it 1990? Was it 1990? When did women get? When
Well, it's
was
100, so it's 19...
Well, it's
Well,
100
in
years
the-
since
in
the Equal Representation of the People's Act, where women over 30 that were either owned property or their husband owned property had the vote in this country. So it was wealthy women who were married over 30. And so it wasn't
In the
equal
UK.
in the UK.
In the UK.
And then it was 1928 before everybody got the vote.
Yeah.
Sororities and fraternities.
Yes, you do.
Do
Delta
we?
Sigma Thetas are here.
We've heard of them.
Yeah.
I haven't
thought
heard
it
of
was
any
American.
sorority in the UK.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
The AKAs, everyone's here. they're here.
What?
Maybe
Yes.
just like the only sororities in the UK are black sororities.
I'm sure there are branches of like all sororities here,
maybe.
but if you're not in that world and you're not
No.
looking for it, you're not going to find it. Like, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's one of those.
True.
I guess it's a secret society over here.
I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Very secret. Right. That we said we weren't going to
go.
talk for an hour, but that's
Yay.
been 50 minutes.
Oh.
Oh my god, that's the whole episode done. Amazing.
How long are they usually?
About 50 minutes.
minutes.
There it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
guys.
you.
This was really
so much
fun.
for your time.
Of course.
Oh, can you just quickly say when your show is on?
Yeah.
Yes. The Year of the Rooster Monk at the Vault Theatre Festival is on March 7th through the 11th.
Get tickets now.
Yeah, get tickets, please. Get tickets now.
Before they run out.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, why is it called Year of the Rooster Monk?
You will see.
I
You
thought
will
was
see.
going to play a part because of the picture. But
Yeah.
we'll find out.
You will find out.
Find out. Look
Will
out for the
they
poster.
ever live like?
There is a rooster on the picture.
Yeah, no, you will find out.
I've been putting Bechdel stickers on those posters.
Good.
I've seen the rooster around.
Yes. It's gonna be
Cool.
fabulous.
Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stop recording. Yes, Giselle was the best. And Natalie was great. Thank you, guys. We had a lovely time talking to you.
Oh, I forgot to say, apologising for potentially the quality in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
We've recorded it on Beth's phone and not our normal mobile mic because I'm an idiot and I somehow lost the SD card.
Have you found it again?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I did
good.
lose it, but I also found it.
Good. Well done. Gold star for you. So what are we recommending this month? This month that begins with International Women's Week, is it? Day?
I mean, why can't it be the whole year? I mean, why can't it just be forever? But, you know, yeah, the specific week.
Lady Month.
Lady Month.
Begins with...
Okay, so this month we have, well, So Many Reasons is our kickstart to International Women's Day. It is going to Oval House. I don't know if you remember us plugging it on a few episodes, and we also did some Vox Pops for it at CPT. And we also saw Rachel Fore's show Portrait. So this incredible show is going to Oval House, which will be there from March the 6th to the 10th. And it's there for an International Women's Day party.
Woo,
There'll be
feminist cocktails.
There will be performance poetry, there'll be music, there'll be laughter, there'll be drinking, there'll be women. It sounds great.
It will be fun. It will be fun. If you're going to come and see that, come and see it on the 8th. There is Party in Your Pants at Farr's School of Dancing. Farr's School of Dancing, which isn't dancing school, but a dancing club. It's like a bar club thing. And this is a night that my friend Ruby is holding, a club night in aid of Bloody Good Period, which is a charity that collects menstrual products and funds free menstrual products for people who can't afford them. And that is on March the 3rd, so just before International Women's Day.
Following that, there is Leftover Women at the Cockpit Theatre. Leftover women is a term that is used in China, a derogatory term used for women who are over 27 and they are single and unmarried. And this show is about that kind of experience and culture. So it sounds really interesting. And that is on the 11th of March.
And then we've got, WOW Festival, of course, at the South Bank Centre.
Wow.
Yeah, we went last year, saw some great things, really enjoyed it. This year we're looking forward to a show called Yvette, which I think was at the Fringe and we didn't get a chance to see it, so we'll get to see it at the South Bank Centre. I think it's like a personal one-woman show, kind of possibly autobiographical, something about like a difficult time growing up, like hard family times type thing. So it might be a bit hard-hitting.
Yeah. Read the WOW Festival programme to get more of a rundown of that one.
And all the other shows that are on at WOW Festival.
I feel like it's really good with WOW to get context for what the shows are.
Yeah.
When you're seeing something in that kind of space.
You need to know what you're going into.
Yeah.
And then the Bunker, Electra is on the ancient Greek myth, which is reworked into a punk rock show. So that sounds awesome. February 27th till the 24th of March.
Then at the Nash, or the National Theatre, from the 10th of March to the 14th of April, so this one's got a proper, a month's run, which feels long these days. When you compare it to VAULT. There is a show called The Great Wave, which is about, I'll read you the quick description. It says, on a Japanese beach, teenagers sister Hanako and Reiko are caught up in a storm. Reiko survives while Hanako is lost to the sea. Their mother, however, can't shake the feeling her missing daughter is still alive. And soon family tragedy takes on a global political dimension. There's some really beautiful photo posters up for this that I've seen for a while. So it looks really, really good.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
And then we've got Frankenstein at the Space. Now this is a new all-female adaptation, and I love the story of Frankenstein, and I love the story behind Frankenstein of Mary Shelley writing it when she was like
19 or something,
really young,
yeah.
to have written something that basically changed the face of literature and invented science fiction. So Frankenstein, the female version, at the Space, where I haven't actually been to before. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that is on until the 10th of March. It's already on until March 10th.
Whoop, whoop. Then we've got, an old favourite of ours, speaking of some Edinburgh shows, Dollywood by Shit Theatre is coming to Soho!
Dun, 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 dun. I'm not going to do the whole song. It's my karaoke song. I'm not going to do it on the podcast. No.
Okay. If you want to hear, I was about to say real Dolly, but if you want to hear the soundtrack of Dolly's albums, then go see Dollywood at Soho Theatre. It's amazing. It's a two-hander. It's hilarious. It fuses live art and it's just amazing. Go see it. It doesn't really need an explanation. That is on from March 19th to April the 14th.
And then, this one's going to be a Tina the Musical, as in Tina Turner. Yeah, no more singing. That's at the Aldwych Theatre. This is our West End rec recommendation from March 21st. Tina the Musical. I mean, do we need to say anything more than it's about Tina Turner?
Yeah.
And it's got good hype.
Yes, I've heard really
Positive
great things
things
about it.
The Party Somewhere Else is a festival, so it's got loads of different shows on from March 20th to 24th at Nottingham Playhouse. So pals up in the Nottinghamshire area. The Party Somewhere Else also includes Libby Libbard. I loved her show Motherhood, and she's got a new show called Temporary, which is going to be part of that festival. And I'm sure will be elsewhere in the country as well, so look out for that one. And
Temporary is about temporary housing as well, just to kind of give some context to that. Strike a Light Festival is on in Gloucester for a few days, which is the 21st to the 27th of March. That's not a few days, that's a week. Some of our favourite shows that are in this festival includes Joan and Quarter Life Crisis, two creators that we've had on the show previously. So if you're in Gloucester or have mates in Gloucester who weren't able to see the shows, tell them to go to Strike a Light Festival.
Anywhere in the west of the country, really. Get yourselves down there because they are great shows. Good Girl at Trafalgar Studios. It's currently on at VAULT Festival until March 4th, and then it's transferring straight to the Trafalgar Studios. So Good Girl I saw in Edinburgh. It's a one-woman show. It's about kind of coming of age, like discovering sexuality, I think, and about how it feels when you feel too much. So somebody like this woman who's very like emotional teenager girl, and also about how it feels to be called a good girl and what that means.
Good girl. Oh, it's such a
yeah. Brings up stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really
good
does.
Girl.
Good girl. Oh, you're such a good girl. Yeah. Year of the Rooster Monk. We've definitely recommending this one, especially after that incredible interview. Go see it. That's March 7th to the 11th.
VAULT Festival. Boots, that's the next one at VAULT Festival. This one features another previous podcast guest, Tanya Loretta D. So if you liked seeing her in Offside, you should go and see Boots at VAULT Festival. That is Boots as in Boots the Chemist. Something occurs in Boots, and it's a new play, and it says it's about ending the silence that would keep even Ginger Rogers on her toes.
Ooh, in Boots.
So Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, and Boots the Chemist with Tanya Loretta D.
Amazing. Also, there is Timothy, which is from March the 14th to 18th by Joyous Guard, who also made at the Vaults I Have a Mouth and I Will Scream.
And that was an awesome show.
Yeah.
So I think this one might be awesome as well.
We're recommending that one because
bet.
we know that one was good and we think you might enjoy it.
Oh, finally, Things That Do Not Count, which is Anastasia Summers, who's made a feminist solo piece of experimental theatre about body positivity. And it's partly set in Poland, World War II Poland, communist Poland, because Anastasia is a Polish woman. Makes sense. Oh, apparently I've heard that she gives out free vodka during the show as well.
Oh my god.
Not that that's my motivation at all, because I prefer gin.
Polish, is it Polish?
Polish. I mean, bloody hope
I would
so.
hope so.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
So
wicked. I can't wait for that.
Vaults ones. And then VAULT Festival will be over.
Whoa.
Oh, no.
That's too quick. It's supposed to be like really long.
Well, it was really long.
I
It's been on
know,
since
but-
January.
I know,
Time
but-
flies when you're
Yeah.
having fun.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's all we've got time for, and I feel like a radio host saying that.
That's all we got time for, folks.
Yeah. Join us again next week. We'll be discussing washing up liquid. I don't know.
Join us again next month. We'll be discussing gender representation on stage.
Woo, 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 woo.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.